Picture this. You're getting ready for Halloween. You need a Viking costume. What's the first thing you grab? A helmet with horns. Everyone does this. Every movie does this. Every cartoon does this. It feels like the most obvious fact in history. But here's the thing. It's completely made up, not slightly exaggerated, not based on a real thing, but bigger, made up, from scratch. And once you hear where it actually came from, you're never going to see a Viking helmet the same way again. Let's rewind. Real Vikings lived around 1,200 years ago. They raided, they traded, they sailed further than almost anyone else on Earth at the time. And archaeologists have dug up thousands of their graves. Weapons, tools, jewelry, combs, even board games. You know what they haven't found? A single horned helmet. Not one. In over 1,000 years of digging. So where did this image even come from? Stick with me here, because the answer is honestly kind of hilarious. Fast forward to the 1800s, almost 1,000 years after the actual Viking Age ended. In Europe, there's a huge wave of romantic nationalism. Countries want a glorious, dramatic past. Artists and writers start reimagining old myths and legends, dressing them up to look as epic as possible. And in 1876, a German composer named Richard Wagner premieres an opera called Der Ring des Nibelungen. It's based on Old Norse and Germanic myths. Gods, warriors, dragons. Big dramatic stuff. For the costumes, the designer, a guy named Carl Emil Doppler, wanted the Norse warriors to look powerful and intimidating on stage. So he gave them winged and horned helmets. Not because any historical record said so, just because it looked cool under stage lights. That's it. That's the whole origin story. A costume designer for an opera in the 1800s made a creative choice, and it worked. It worked so well that it escaped the opera house completely. Painters picked it up. Illustrators picked it up. Then children's books. Then early movies. By the time Hollywood started making Viking films in the 1950s, the horned helmet was already obviously correct. Nobody double-checked. Why would they? It looked right. Now here's the part that really gets me. Real Vikings did wear helmets. We actually have archaeological proof of that. The most famous one is called the Geirmundbu helmet, found in Norway. It's rounded, simple, practical. It has a piece protecting the nose and eyes, kind of like a built-in visor. No horns, no wings, nothing sticking out at all. And when you think about it for 2 seconds, that makes complete sense. These were warriors. They fought in close combat, shield to shield, sword to sword, axe to axe. Adding 2 horns to your helmet in a real fight is not intimidating. It's a handle. It's something for your enemy to grab, twist, and use to slam your head straight into their knee. Vikings were many things. But they weren't stupid. You don't survive as a raider and a sailor for centuries by strapping furniture to your skull. So why did the myth stick so hard? Even after historians corrected it. Because it's a great story shortcut. One single image, and instantly your brain understands. Dangerous, wild, ancient, foreign. Horns do all that work in half a second. A plain round helmet doesn't hit the same. It just looks like a helmet. This is actually a pattern that shows up everywhere in history, not just with Vikings. Napoleon wasn't short. Medieval people didn't think the earth was flat. Einstein didn't fail math. In every one of these cases, the wrong version is just more entertaining than the boring, accurate one. So it survives. It gets repeated. It gets illustrated. And eventually, it becomes common knowledge, even though nobody ever actually checked the archaeological record. This is called a historical myth of convenience. Nobody made it up to lie to you. It just happened to be a better story. So it kept getting copied. Generation after generation, until the copy became more famous than the original truth. Let's go back to the Vikings themselves for a second, because the real picture is honestly more interesting than the horned cartoon version anyway. The people we call Vikings weren't one single army or one single nation. That word, Viking, actually described an activity, not a group of people. It meant something closer to going on a raiding expedition. Most of these same people, most of the time, were farmers, fishermen, traders, blacksmiths, woodworkers, regular people with regular jobs. Only some of them, some of the time, went a Viking. Just like a modern person might have a regular job all year and to take a trip once in a while. And when they did travel, it wasn't only for raiding. Viking traders reached Constantinople. They reached Baghdad. Their trade routes stretched through rivers in modern-day Russia, all the way down to the Middle East. There's Arabic silver coins that have been dug up in Scandinavia. There's Scandinavian goods that have shown up in trade records thousands of miles from home. That's not a horde of screaming barbarians in horned helmets. That's a network of sailors, merchants, and explorers who happen to be extremely good at building boats and reading the sea. So here's the real twist of this whole video. The actual history of the Vikings is more impressive than the myth. Real ones didn't need horns to look dangerous. They crossed open ocean in wooden ships with no modern instruments and somehow reached Iceland, Greenland, and even North America, roughly 500 years before Columbus. They didn't need a costume to be remembered. They just needed to survive the North Atlantic. Now here's where this connects to you, today, in your actual life. Think about how much of what you know got into your head the exact same way the horned helmet did. Not from a textbook, not from a museum, from a movie, a cartoon, a meme, a video just like this one, honestly. None of that makes you dumb. It makes you human. Our brains remember vivid images way faster than they remember boring facts. A striking picture always beats a footnote, but it does mean it's worth asking every once in a while about the things you're sure of. Did I actually check this? Or did I just see it enough times that it started to feel true? Because somewhere out there, right now, there's probably a fact living in your head that started exactly like this one did. As a costume choice, for a stage, under some lights, made up by one guy, doing his job, a century and a half ago. So next Halloween, if you still want the horned helmet, wear it. It's fun. It's iconic. Nobody's going to stop you. Just know, deep down, that the real Vikings would probably look at it and quietly wonder who on earth thought that was a good idea in a fight.